The council chamber floated in the darkness of space like a jewel. Inside, representatives from 12 different species sat in a wide circle. Some had scales, some had fur, and some looked like walking insects. They had all come here today for one reason. Earth had been discovered, and the humans wanted to join them. Jiwan stood in the center of the circle. She wore a simple gray suit and kept her hands folded in front of her. Her black hair was tied back and her face showed no emotion. Behind her stood Minho, a military officer with scars on his face and hands. He said nothing, but his eyes watched everything. High Chancellor Vextar sat on the highest seat. His scales were dark green, and his yellow eyes looked down at Jiwan with barely hidden contempt. He had ruled the council for 20 years, and he did not like changes. So, Vextar said, his voice echoing in the chamber, the humans wish to join us. You have barely left your own star system. What makes you think you belong here? Jiwan smiled slightly. We are new to space travel, yes. But we learn quickly. We adapt, we survive. These are useful traits, are they not? Several council members whispered to each other. Some looked amused. Others looked curious. Before Vextar could respond, an old creature shuffled forward from the back of the room. This was Thirin, a scholar from one of the oldest races in the galaxy. His people looked like tall, thin birds covered in gray feathers. He carried something wrapped in cloth. Honored Council, Thirin said, his voice shaking slightly. Before we vote, I must show you something. My team found this on a dead world at the edge of known space. It is very old, millions of years perhaps. He unwrapped the cloth to reveal a stone tablet covered in strange symbols. The tablet showed crude drawings of creatures that walked on two legs. They looked almost human, but simplified and primitive. What does it say? Asked Senator Kalith, an insect-like being who controlled 3 systems. Thirin cleared his throat. It is written in old galactic script, very old. It says, the soft ones who walk on 2 legs, beware their patience. They hunt not with strength, but with time. Silence filled the chamber for a moment. Then Vextar began to laugh. It was a harsh hissing sound. Soon others joined him. Senator Kalith clicked his mandibles in amusement. Even some of the smaller council members chuckled. A warning? Vextar said between laughs. About humans? Look at them. They have no natural weapons. No claws, no venom, no armor. They die easily. They are weak. Superstition from extinct civilizations, Senator Kalith added. The tablet is interesting for museums, Scholar Thirin, but nothing more. Thirin looked down at the tablet in his hands. He seemed sad, but he said nothing more. He shuffled back to his seat, clutching the ancient stone. Jiwan had not laughed. She had not even smiled. She simply stood there, watching and listening. Minho's expression had not changed either. If anything, his eyes had grown colder. The council voted quickly. Humans would be granted provisional membership. They would be given a sector of space to manage, but it was far from the center of the galaxy. The resources there were poor. The worlds were mostly barren. It was a test, Vextar explained. If humans could thrive there, perhaps they deserved more. We accept, Jiwan said simply. We will prove ourselves worthy. See that you do, Vextar replied. The galaxy has no room for weakness. As the council session ended and the representatives began to leave, Thirin approached Jiwan quietly. He glanced around to make sure no one was listening closely. Ambassador, he whispered. Please be careful. My people found another tablet once long ago. It warned about a different species. We ignored it like the council ignored this one today. What happened? Jiwan asked. That species is extinct now, Thirin said. But it was not natural causes. Something hunted them. Something patient. Something that waited until they were vulnerable. He looked into her eyes. I think the warning was not about them. I think the warning was about something they angered. Jiwan placed a hand on the old scholar's shoulder. Thank you for your concern. But you should know something about humans, Scholar Thirin. We have been underestimated many times in our history. On our own world, we were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most dangerous. Then how did you survive? Thirin asked. We were patient, Jiwan said. We watched. We learned, we waited, and when the time was right, we acted. Every predator on Earth that was stronger than us is now either extinct or locked in cages. Thirin's feathers ruffled. That is exactly what the warning said. I know, Jiwan replied. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. The difference is we know what we are. The council does not. That usually works in our favor. She turned to leave, and Minho followed her. Theron watched them go, clutching the ancient tablet to his chest. He looked at the primitive drawings again, at the crude figures that walked on two legs. In the torchlight of the chamber, they almost seemed to move, almost seemed to hunt. Behind him, Vextar was meeting with Senator Kalith in a private alcove. Their voices were low, but Theron's people had excellent hearing. The humans will fail within a year, Vextar was saying. That sector borders Kreth territory. The Kreth Empire is aggressive and strong. They will attack the humans, and the humans will beg us for help. And when they do, Kalith asked, we will offer them protection, in exchange for certain concessions, mining rights, trade agreements, perhaps a few military bases on their homeworld. Vextar's laugh was cold. By the time we are done, Earth will belong to us in everything but name. What about the Kreth? They will not stop attacking just because we tell them to. Let them fight, Vextar said. When both sides are weak, we step in and claim everything. The Kreth are strong but stupid. The humans are weak but clever. They will destroy each other and we will profit. Theron felt sick. He wanted to warn Jiwan, but she was already gone. He looked down at the tablet again. The warning seemed clearer now. Beware their patience. The council chamber began to empty. The lights dimmed. Theron wrapped the tablet back in its cloth and held it close. Somewhere in his mind, he wondered if the warning had been meant for the humans at all. Perhaps it had been meant for everyone else. Perhaps it was a warning about what happened when you made enemies of patient hunters. Outside the station, Jiwan and Minho stood at a viewport, looking out at the stars. Their ship was docked nearby, ready to return to Earth with the news. They think we are weak, Minho said quietly. Let them, Jiwan replied. Weak prey is not watched carefully. Weak prey is not seen as a threat. We will go to our poor sector. We will build. We will learn. We will prepare. And when the Kreth attack? Minho asked. Because they will attack. That Chancellor wants them to. When they attack, we will do what humans do best, Jiwan said. She pressed her hand against the cold glass of the viewport. We will survive. We will remember. And we will make them regret it. In the reflection of the glass, Minho saw her smile. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator that had spotted prey. It was the smile of someone who could wait as long as necessary. It was the smile that would have terrified the council if they had been watching. But they were not watching. They never did until it was too late. That was the mistake species always made with humans. They saw the soft skin and assumed weakness. They saw the lack of claws and assumed helplessness. They forgot that the most dangerous predators on Earth were not the ones with sharp teeth. They were the ones with sharp minds. As their ship pulled away from the station, Jiwan looked back one last time. Somewhere in there, an ancient warning sat wrapped in cloth, dismissed and forgotten. But warnings existed for a reason. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would remember why. 6 months after the first colony abandonment, War Master Krog felt confident. His forces had claimed 4 human worlds without serious resistance. The humans sent their little ships to watch and monitor, but they did not fight. They ran, they hid. They were weak, just as he had always believed. Now he was preparing his greatest attack. 70% of the Kreth military fleet was gathering near human space. Krog had convinced his government that humans were easy prey. One massive strike would break them completely, and the Kreth Empire would own rich new territory. The target was New Pyongyang, the human capital world in this sector. Intelligence reports said it had minimal defenses. The humans had focused on protecting their other colonies, leaving their capital exposed. It was foolish, but typical of weak species. They protected the wrong things. Krog's fleet jumped into the New Pyongyang system with 200 warships. It was the largest military force the Kreth had ever assembled in one place. They expected to see defensive stations, military ships, perhaps some orbital weapons platforms. They expected the humans to at least try to fight. Instead, they found almost nothing. New Pyongyang floated in space like any other colony world. A few civilian stations orbited it. Some cargo ships moved lazily between the planet and its moons. There were no military ships, no weapons platforms, no defenses at all. This is too easy, Krog's tactical officer said. It must be a trap. Of course it is a trap, Krog replied. But what can they possibly do? We have 200 ships. Even if they have a hidden fleet, they cannot match these numbers. Scan the entire system. Find their ships. The scanners swept through the system for an hour. They found civilian vessels. They found mining equipment on the moons. They found communication satellites, but they found no military presence at all. The humans had left their capital world defenseless. Fools, Krog said. All power to weapons. We will show them what happens when you are weak in this galaxy. His fleet moved into high orbit, their weapons charged. In 15 minutes, they would begin bombardment. The human government would have no choice but to surrender after their capital burned. On the surface of New Pyongyang, in a bunker 3 kilometers underground, Admiral Jiho watched his displays with cold satisfaction. Everything was going exactly as planned. Do we have weapons lock? He asked quietly. Yes, sir, the tactical officer replied. All platforms are locked on target. Hidden stations are ready. Moon bases are standing by. Then let us show these Kreth what humans do to invaders, Jiho said. Fire everything. What happened next would be studied in military academies for decades. The civilian stations in orbit suddenly opened up, revealing massive weapons batteries. They had been disguised as simple cargo platforms, but they were actually military installations. They opened fire at point-blank range into the Kreth formation. The mining equipment on the moons was not mining equipment at all. They were missile launchers, hundreds of them, and they all fired at once. Thousands of missiles screamed toward the Kreth fleet. The communication satellites activated electromagnetic pulse weapons, frying the sensors of the nearest Kreth ships. And the planet itself, which had looked defenseless, revealed its true nature. The entire northern continent was actually a weapons platform. Defensive shields powered up. Railguns emerged from what had looked like mountains. Energy cannons rose from what had appeared to be cities. The Kreth had not flown into a defenseless system. They had flown into the most heavily armed trap in human space. Krog's flagship shuddered as missiles impacted its shields. Alarm screamed. Evasive action. He roared, return fire. But there was nowhere to go. The humans had positioned their weapons in a perfect crossfire. No matter which direction the Kreth ships turned, they faced more weapons. The fleet that had seemed so powerful moments ago was now trapped, surrounded, and taking devastating losses. How? Krog's tactical officer gasped. How did they hide all of this? The answer was simple. Humans had spent 6 months building this trap while pretending to be weak. They had moved weapons shipments in civilian cargo vessels. They had constructed military installations underground and disguised them as mining operations. They had planned every detail, and the Kreth had never suspected because they thought humans were helpless. While the battle raged in orbit, another part of the human plan activated across 12 star systems. Colonel Daehyun stood in the control room of a hidden base on one of the abandoned colony worlds. He was not alone. 300 human soldiers waited with him, all specialists in guerrilla warfare. They had been living underground for 6 months, watching the Kreth occupy the surface. During that time, they had mapped every Kreth patrol route. They had identified every supply depot. They had learned the schedules of every guard shift. They had been patient, so very patient, and now it was time to act. All teams, this is Daehyun. Execute Operation Wasp Nest. Across 12 systems, small teams of human soldiers emerged from hiding. They did not attack the Kreth military directly. That would be suicide. Instead, they struck at supply lines. Fuel depots exploded. Communication relays went dark. Supply ships disappeared. Food warehouses burned. Within hours, every Kreth military base in human territory lost contact with each other and began running low on essential supplies. The Kreth soldiers on the ground were tough fighters, but they needed food and fuel like any other species. When those supplies stopped coming, they could not operate effectively. When their communication systems failed, they could not coordinate. When their bases started exploding around them, they started to panic. Back at New Pyongyang, the space battle continued. Krog had lost 20 ships already, with dozens more damaged. His tactical officer kept reporting more bad news. Sir, we are getting distress calls from our ground forces. They say they are under attack across multiple systems. They need reinforcements. Krog felt ice in his stomach. This was not just a battle. This was a coordinated operation. The humans had been planning this for months. Pull back, he ordered. All ships retreat to— Sir, we are surrounded, the navigator interrupted. They have ships in every direction. Captain Hyejin's voice came over the communication channel, broadcast to every Kreth ship. This is Captain Hyejin of the Human Defense Force. Your fleet is disabled. Your supply lines are destroyed. Your ground forces are cut off. You cannot win. You cannot escape. You can only surrender. Never. Krug roared. Kreth, do not surrender. Then you will die, Hijin replied. Her voice was not angry. It was simply factual. In approximately 4 minutes, our next wave of missiles will impact your ships. Your shields are failing. Your weapons are low on power. You will be destroyed. Or you can power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Choose quickly. I have 300 human soldiers who lost family members when you attacked our colonies. They are very eager to meet you. Krug looked at his displays. Half his fleet was damaged or destroyed. The other half was running out of ammunition. The humans had more weapons platforms than he had ships, and now he learned that human soldiers were waiting to board his vessels, soldiers who had personal reasons to hate the Kreth. For the first time in his life, War Master Krug felt fear. Power down weapons, he said quietly. Signal surrender. His officers stared at him in shock. But sir, we are Kreth. We do not win by dying stupidly, Krug snapped. If we keep fighting, we all die. If we surrender, some of us live. Living warriors can fight another day. Dead warriors cannot. One by one, the Kreth warships powered down their weapons. Human boarding parties moved in, securing the ships and taking prisoners. The Kreth soldiers were stripped of their weapons and confined to holding cells. For a species that valued strength above all else, the humiliation was almost worse than death. In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Jiwan stood before the assembled representatives. She had requested an emergency session, and they had granted it, probably expecting her to beg for help against the Kreth. Instead, she brought evidence. Honored council members, she said calmly, I have proof that High Chancellor Vextar has been manipulating this council for his own gain. He encouraged the Kreth to attack human colonies. He promised them that the council would not interfere. He did this hoping that both humans and Kreth would weaken each other, allowing him to claim our territories. She activated a holographic display. Intercepted communications played for everyone to hear. Vextar's voice was clear as he spoke with Kreth officials, promising them easy victories and rich rewards. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Several council members demanded explanations. Others called for Vextar's arrest. The High Chancellor stood slowly. His scales had lost some of their color. These are forgeries, he said. Human lies, are they? Jiwan asked. She pressed another button and more evidence appeared. Financial records, secret meetings, coded messages, 6 months of careful intelligence gathering. We know you betrayed us. We know you betrayed the council. We have known for quite some time. We simply waited until we had all the proof we needed. Waited, Vextar repeated. He suddenly remembered the ancient tablet, the warning about humans and their patience. He had laughed at it. Now the laugh seemed to be on him. Humanity does not forgive betrayal, Jiwan said. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the entire chamber. We are patient. 3 years had passed since humans joined the Galactic Council. In that time, they had spread across their assigned sector like seeds in the wind. 15 colonies now existed where there had been none. Small ships moved between worlds carrying supplies and people. Everything looked peaceful from a distance, but it was not peaceful. Captain Hyejin stood on the bridge of her ship, the Persistence. She was young for a captain, only 32, but her eyes looked older. 3 months ago, she had watched a Kreth warship destroy a colony transport. 200 people had died. She had been too far away to help. She would never forget that. Captain, we have movement on long-range sensors, her navigator said. 3 Kreth ships heading toward New Busan colony. Hyejin felt her jaw tighten. New Busan was home to 5,000 people. It was also poorly defended. The colony had only basic shields and no military weapons. How long until they arrive? She asked. 4 hours. And how long until our fleet can get there? The navigator checked his screens. 6 hours minimum. Hyejin closed her eyes. The math was simple and cruel. The Kreth would have 2 hours to do whatever they wanted before help arrived. She opened her communication channel. This is Captain Hyejin to New Busan. You have Kreth ships incoming. Begin evacuation procedures immediately. Get everyone underground. The colony administrator's voice came back, shaking with fear. Captain, we don't have enough shelters. The children, we can't. Do what you can, Hyejin said. Her voice was steady, but her hands gripped the armrest of her chair hard enough to hurt. We are coming. Just hold on. She cut the channel and looked at her crew. Full speed to New Busan. I want every bit of power the engines can give us. They would arrive late. They all knew it, but they would arrive. On the surface of New Busan, Colonel Daehyun was already moving. He had only 40 soldiers with him. The colony was supposed to be peaceful, so they had not sent more. Now 40 soldiers had to protect 5,000 civilians from 3 Kreth warships. Daehyun had been a soldier for 15 years. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth before joining the Space Force. He knew what impossible odds looked like. He also knew that impossible did not mean defeated. Listen up, he told his soldiers. We cannot win a straight fight. We are not going to try. We are going to make them think twice about coming down here. Sir, one young soldier said. How do we do that? Daehyun smiled. It was not a nice smile. We are human. We cheat. 2 hours later, the Kreth ships arrived. They were massive things, all sharp angles and dark metal. Their weapons could level a city in minutes. They hung in orbit like birds of prey, and then they sent a message. Humans of New Busan, the Kreth War Master Krog announced. You have 1 hour to surrender. Give us your food supplies and your fuel. If you resist, we will take everything and kill anyone who fights back. Daehyun watched from a hidden bunker as Kreth dropships descended toward the main colony building. He counted 30 soldiers in the first wave, heavily armed and armored. They expected an easy victory. He pressed a button on his communicator. Now, he said quietly. The ground beneath the landing zone exploded. Not with military explosives, the colony did not have those. Instead, Daehyun had buried fuel cells and fertilizer in a specific pattern. The explosion was not strong enough to destroy the Kreth soldiers, but it was strong enough to flip their dropship and damage their equipment. Before the Kreth could recover, Daehyun's soldiers opened fire from hidden positions. They did not try to kill the Kreth. Their weapons were too weak for that. Instead, they aimed for sensors, communication equipment, and weapons systems. The Kreth armor could stop bullets, but exposed electronics could not. Krog watched from his command ship with growing anger. These humans were like insects, annoying and hard to squash. He sent more soldiers. They landed away from the booby traps this time, but they found something else waiting for them. The colonists had dug tunnels. Lots of tunnels. The Kreth soldiers would advance on a building, only to have humans pop up behind them, take shots, and disappear underground again. The Kreth were stronger and better armed, but they were fighting blind in an enemy territory. This is embarrassing, Krog's second-in-command said. They are not even real soldiers, just colonists with mining tools. Then stop playing with them and burn the colony, Krog ordered. If they want to hide underground, we will turn the surface into glass. The command ship's weapons began to charge. This was the moment Daehyun had been waiting for. Every second the Kreth spent chasing his soldiers on the ground was a second they were not watching their sensors. The Persistence dropped out of faster-than-light travel just outside the Kreth formation. Hyejin had arrived 30 minutes early by pushing her engines past their safety limits. She would need repairs later, but later did not matter if there was no one left to save. Target their command ship, Hyejin ordered. Fire everything. The Persistence was smaller than the Kreth warships. Its weapons were weaker. But it had surprise on its side, and surprise was a weapon too. Missiles and laser fire slammed into the command ship's engines before they could raise shields. Krog's ship shuddered. Alarms blared. What is that? He roared. Human warship, sir. Small class, but she got behind us. Hyejin did not try to fight all 3 ships. Instead, she targeted the command ship's weapon systems, the ones aimed at the planet. She disabled 2 of them before the other Kreth ships turned to engage her. Evasive maneuvers, she called out. Her ship twisted and dove, leading the Kreth away from the colony. She needed to buy time. The rest of the human fleet would be here soon. On the ground, Daehyun heard the explosions in space and smiled. He keyed his communicator. All units fall back to the deep shelters. Let the Navy handle this now. His soldiers disappeared into the tunnels like ghosts. By the time the Kreth ground forces figured out what was happening, there was no one left to fight. The humans had vanished, leaving only empty buildings and damaged Kreth equipment. Krog was furious. The humans had humiliated him. His ground forces had been made to look like fools, and now a single human ship was dancing around his formation like a fly that refused to be swatted. All ships, destroy that vessel, he ordered. I want it turned to dust. But Hyejin had no intention of dying today. She had studied Kreth tactics for 3 years. She knew how they moved, how they thought. They were aggressive and direct. They expected enemies to fight head-on or run away in fear. She did neither. Instead, she flew straight toward the largest moon, using its gravity to slingshot around at speeds the heavier Kreth ships could not match. By the time they adjusted their course, she was behind them again. "Captain, the fleet has arrived," her navigator announced. 12 human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel surrounding the Kreth formation. They were not large ships, and none of them alone could match a Kreth warship. But together they were a different story. Admiral Jiho's voice came over the communication channel, calm and cold. "Kreth vessels, you have entered human space and attacked our colony. You will leave immediately, or we will force you to leave." Krog looked at his sensors. His 3 ships against 12 human vessels. The odds were still in his favor, but not by much. And his command ship was already damaged. If he fought now, he might lose ships. His people would see that as weakness. "This is not over, humans," Krog transmitted. "You have made enemies today." "We have been your enemies since you first attacked us," Jiho replied. "The only difference is now you know we bite back." The Kreth ships turned and jumped to faster-than-light travel. They left behind damaged dropships and wounded soldiers on the surface, which the humans collected as prisoners. Hyejin docked with the flagship, and Jiho met her in the hangar bay. The admiral was older, with gray hair and a face that showed no emotion. "Reckless flying, Captain," Jiho said. "Yes, sir," Hyejin replied. "But it worked." Jiho almost smiled. Almost. It did. But this is just the beginning. The Kreth will attack again. They have already hit 2 other colonies this month, and the Galactic Council does nothing. "Because they want us to fail," Hyejin said. "I read the reports. Chancellor Vextar is hoping we will be weakened by these attacks." "Correct." Jiho turned to look at the stars through the hangar's force field. "So we need to be smarter than them. We need to make the Kreth regret every attack. We need to make them bleed for every colony they touch." "How?" Hyejin asked. "They are stronger than us." "In a direct fight, yes," Jiho agreed. "But wars are not won by single battles. Wars are won by breaking the enemy's will to fight, and humans are very good at that." Far away in a research station hidden in an asteroid field, scientist Yunji was studying captured Kreth equipment. She had degrees in biology and psychology, and she was looking for weaknesses. She found one. The Kreth were warriors. Their entire culture was built on strength and victory. They despised weakness, but that meant they had a blind spot. If an enemy appeared weak and did not fight back, the Kreth assumed that enemy was conquered. They stopped watching carefully. Yunji sent her report to Admiral Jiho with a simple note. "If we want to defeat the Kreth, we need to appear weaker than we are. Let them think they are winning. Let them grow careless. Then strike when they are not looking." Jiho read the report 3 times. Then he called a meeting of all the colony commanders and ship captains. 8 months after the Battle of New Pyongyang, the galaxy had changed. The Kreth Empire was in chaos. 17 species that had been under Kreth control saw what happened to the mighty Kreth fleet and decided to rebel. Suddenly, the species that had terrorized others for decades was fighting for survival, and everyone knew that humans had supplied weapons and training to those rebels. The Galactic Council was different too. Chancellor Vextar was gone, hiding somewhere in the Outer Rim. The Council had elected a temporary leader, but everyone knew the real power had shifted. When Ambassador Jiwan spoke, people listened, but not everyone was happy about this change. In a secret meeting far from the council station, 4 species gathered. They were led by representatives who feared human expansion. They called themselves the Preservation Coalition, and they claimed their goal was to preserve the old balance of power. Really, they were afraid that humans would do to them what had been done to the Kreth. Vextar sat at the head of the table. He had lost his position, but not his ambition. His scales were duller now, and he looked older. Running from the council had taken its toll. But his eyes still burned with anger. "Humans have made fools of us all," he told the gathered representatives. "They pretended to be weak. They manipulated us. They waited like cowards and then struck when we were not ready. This cannot stand." "What do you propose?" asked General Reth, a wolf-like creature representing the Fanner clans. "The humans have proven they are dangerous. Their military is stronger than we thought. Their intelligence network is everywhere. Which is why we must strike now before they grow stronger," Vextar argued. "We have 4 species here. Together we have 300 warships. If we coordinate our attacks, we can hit human diplomatic stations across 6 systems simultaneously. We can cripple their operations before they know what is happening. The plan was approved. The Preservation Coalition began moving ships into position. They were careful. They used encrypted communications. They varied their routes. They thought they were being clever. They did not know that humans had been watching them since the first secret meeting. Counselor Subin sat in her office on the human diplomatic station in the Helios system. She was new to the council, having replaced Jiwan when Jiwan was promoted to High Ambassador. But Subin was not new to intelligence work. She had spent 15 years in Earth's military intelligence before joining the diplomatic service. On her desk were reports from human agents embedded in all 4 coalition species. The reports detailed troop movements, ship positions, communication protocols, and even the personal financial records of several coalition leaders. They are planning to attack in 3 days, she said to the holographic image of General Bora. 6 systems, simultaneous strikes on our diplomatic stations. General Bora was 50 years old, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too many wars. She commanded the human expeditionary forces and she was very good at her job. Do we evacuate the stations? No, Subin replied. We let them attack. That will kill our people, Bora said carefully. It will kill some people, Subin agreed. But those stations are mostly automated now. We evacuated 90% of personnel last week when we first learned about this plan. The remaining people are military volunteers who understand the risk. You are using our own stations as bait, Bora said. It was not a question. I am using them as evidence, Subin corrected. When the coalition attacks peaceful diplomatic stations, they will break every treaty and law the Galactic Council has. They will become the aggressors, and then we respond, not as the attackers but as the victims. Bora smiled slightly. You think like a chess player, Counselor. I think like a human, Subin replied. We are always thinking 3 moves ahead. 3 days later, the coalition struck. Warships appeared at 6 human diplomatic stations and opened fire without warning. The station's shields held for a few minutes, giving the people inside time to escape in pods. Then the stations exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The coalition celebrated. They had struck a blow against the arrogant humans. They had shown that humanity could bleed. Now they believed other species would join them. The human expansion would stop. They were very wrong. Within hours, Counselor Subin appeared before the Galactic Council. Behind her played recordings from the destroyed stations. The recordings showed coalition ships firing on clearly marked diplomatic facilities. No warnings, no demands, just destruction. The Preservation Coalition has committed an act of war, Subin said calmly, not just against humanity, but against the laws of this council. Diplomatic stations are protected under galactic law. The coalition destroyed 6 such stations. They killed 47 diplomatic personnel. They did this in violation of every treaty they signed. This is outrageous, shouted Ambassador Kelrin of the Fanner clans, trying to defend his people. You humans have been manipulating events. You destroyed the Kreth Empire. You forced Vexistar to flee. You are the real threat. Am I? Subin asked. She seemed almost amused. Let me show you something interesting. She activated another display. This one showed financial records. General Reth of your people has 17 million credits in a hidden account. These credits came from illegal arms sales. Ambassador Kelrin, your cousin has been embezzling funds from your clan's treasury for 8 years. Would you like me to continue? Kelrin's face went pale. How did you— We know everything, Subin interrupted. We have known for months. We know about the secret meetings. We know about the planned attacks. We knew you would strike at our diplomatic stations. We let it happen because we needed the galaxy to see who you really are. She turned to address the full council. Each species in the Preservation Coalition has corrupt leaders. Leaders who steal from their own people. Leaders who start wars to distract from their crimes. We have evidence. Detailed evidence. And now we are going to share it. What happened next was surgical. Human intelligence operatives released carefully prepared information to news networks across the galaxy. Within days, the populations of all 4 coalition species learned the truth about their leaders. General Reth had been selling military supplies meant for his soldiers. The money went to his private accounts while his troops used old failing equipment. Ambassador Kelrin's family had stolen enough money to feed his entire clan for 10 years. While Common Fenir struggled, the Kelrin family lived in luxury. Similar scandals emerged for the other 2 coalition species. Tax fraud, corruption, secret dealings with criminals. Every dirty secret exposed for all to see. The leaders tried to deny it. They claimed the evidence was fake. But human intelligence was thorough. They had receipts. They had recordings. They had witnesses. The evidence was impossible to deny. Within 2 weeks, 3 of the 4 coalition species had overthrown their governments. New leaders took power. Leaders who had been supported quietly by human operatives for months. These new leaders were not puppets. They were genuinely better than the old ones. But they were also grateful to humanity for the help. The 4th species, Vextar's own people, took longer. But eventually, even they turned against their former chancellor. A military coup removed the government loyal to Vextar. The new government immediately issued a warrant for his arrest. Vextar fled again, this time to the edge of known space. Only a handful of loyal followers went with him. From a powerful chancellor commanding respect across the galaxy, he had become a fugitive hiding in the dark. General Bora never fired a shot. She did not need to. The Preservation Coalition destroyed itself once the truth was revealed. It turned out that the best weapon against corrupt leaders was not missiles or soldiers. It was information. Scholar Theron watched all of this from his research station. He was old now, older than when he had first shown the Council that ancient warning. He had spent the last year translating more tablets from the same dead civilization. He found a new section of the warning that he had missed before. It read, "They needed no claws because they made claws from stone. They needed no venom because they made venom from plants. They needed no armor because they made armor from metal. What they lack, they create. What they cannot defeat, they outlast." Thyron understood now. Humans were not dangerous because they were strong. They were dangerous because they adapted. When they faced stronger enemies, they did not fight directly. They found other ways. They used politics. They used information. They used patience. They turned enemies against themselves. He recorded a message to his people's archives. If you ever meet humans, treat them with respect. Not because they are physically powerful, but because they are mentally dangerous. They do not see problems. They see puzzles, and they are very good at solving puzzles. On Earth, in the Global Government Building, High Ambassador Jiwan met with her advisors. The Preservation Coalition was gone. The Kreth Empire was broken. Vextar was in hiding. Humanity had gone from being dismissed as weak to being the most influential species in the Council. "What now?" asked Admiral Jiho. "Now we need to be careful," Jiwan replied. "We have shown the galaxy what happens when they attack us. But if we are not careful, we will become what we defeated. We will become the empire that others fear and hate. Some already fear us," Counselor Subin noted. "I have heard whispers. People saying humans are too clever, too manipulative." 2 years after the fall of the Preservation Coalition, humanity had become the most respected voice in the Galactic Council. High Ambassador Jiwan sat on the Council Leadership Council, helping make decisions that affected billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. Human ships protected trade routes. Human diplomats negotiated peace treaties. Human technology improved life across the galaxy. But in a secret research facility on Earth, Professor Tajan was discovering something that would change everything. Tajan was a xenoarchaeologist, someone who studied the ruins of ancient alien civilizations. The Council had granted humans access to the complete historical archives as thanks for stabilizing the galaxy. For 2 years, Tajan had been reading through millions of documents, and what he found disturbed him deeply. He stood in High Ambassador Jiwan's office on the Council station, holding a data tablet with shaking hands. Jiwan had never seen him so upset. "Ambassador, we need to talk," Tajan said. "In private. And you need to see this." Jiwan dismissed her staff and sealed the room. "What is it, Professor?" Tajan activated a holographic display. Ancient symbols appeared floating in the air. "This is the complete version of the warning that Scholar Thyron showed the Council years ago. The one they laughed at." "I remember," Jiwan said. "The warning continues," Tajan said. His voice was barely above a whisper. "The part Theron showed us was just the beginning. The rest was damaged and hidden in separate archives. I have spent 2 years finding all the pieces. Ambassador, the full warning says, the humans were not always confined to one world. They were here before and they will return. When they do, they will remember nothing. But they will become what they once were. And when they remember what they truly are, even the stars will hide. Ji-won stared at the symbols. What does that mean? It means humans are not new to the galaxy, Taejin replied. We are old, very old. These archives contain references to humans from millions of years ago. There are records of human colonies across the entire galaxy. There are descriptions of human technology that makes our current ships look like children's toys. And there are warnings, so many warnings about what happens when humans are threatened. That is impossible, Ji-won said. Our species evolved on Earth. We have fossil records. We have genetic evidence. I thought so too, Taejin agreed. But then I found this. He pulled up another file. This one showed a genetic comparison. I took DNA samples from the ancient human ruins and compared them to modern human DNA. Ambassador, we are a 99.8% match. The humans who lived millions of years ago are us. We are them. Ji-won sat down slowly. What happened to them, to us? War, Taejin said simply. The archives are not complete, but what I have found suggests that ancient humanity was involved in a massive war. Something went wrong. Most humans died. The survivors fled to a remote planet to hide and heal. That planet was Earth. But the war had damaged them. Their technology failed. Their memories faded. Over millions of years, we forgot who we were. We evolved again from the survivors. We started over. So the humans that the galaxy fears, Ji-won said slowly, are just the species we used to be, waking up again. Yes, Taejin confirmed. And based on these records, the galaxy has every reason to be afraid. Ancient humans were not cruel or evil, but they were incredibly powerful. When they went to war, entire star systems died. The archives show that at least 3 major civilizations were destroyed by ancient humans. Not conquered, destroyed, erased from existence. Ji-won looked at the evidence for a long time. Finally, she asked, who else knows about this? Just you and me, Taejin replied. I have not told anyone. But Ambassador, there is more. Someone else is looking for this information. I found traces of another person accessing these same archives. Someone who knows how to hide their search history, but not perfectly. Find out who, Ji-won ordered, and keep this completely secret. If the galaxy learns that humans were once the most dangerous species in history, everything we have built will collapse. 3 days later, Taejin identified the other person searching the archives. It was Vextar. The former chancellor had not just been hiding. He had been researching, and now he knew the truth about humanity. Ji-won called an emergency meeting with her closest advisors. Admiral Jiho, General Bora, Counselor Subin, and Scholar Thyron all gathered in a secure room. Vextar knows, Ji-won said without introduction. She explained what Taejin had discovered. As she talked, the faces around the table grew more serious. If he reveals this to the galaxy, Subin said, every species will unite against us. They will see us as the return of their worst nightmare. Can we find him before he talks? Bora asked. We have been trying for 2 years, Admiral Jiho replied.
He is good at hiding. Scholar Thyron spoke quietly.
Ambassador, I must tell you something. My people also have archives about ancient humans. We never shared them because we were afraid. The archives say that ancient humans did not start wars, but when wars were brought to them, they ended them. Permanently. So we were defenders? Ji-won asked. You were survivors, Thyron corrected. Other species tried to destroy humans because they feared you. Every time humans survived, and every time those species did not. My people have a saying, never corner a human, not because they will fight back, but because they will win. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Vextar had just transmitted a message to every council member and every major news network in the galaxy. The message contained everything he had learned about ancient humanity. Within hours, the galaxy exploded in panic. News networks showed images of ancient human weapons. They showed ruins of destroyed civilizations. They showed the warnings that had been left behind. Fear spread like fire through dry grass. Emergency council sessions were called. Some species demanded that humans be expelled from the council. Others called for restrictions on human military growth. A few extremist groups even suggested destroying Earth before humans could fully awaken. Ji-won stood before the council, watching representatives argue and shout. She waited patiently for them to quiet down. When they finally did, she spoke. Everything in Vextar's report is true, she said. Her words caused a new wave of gasps and angry voices. She raised her hand for silence. Yes, humans were once a galactic power. Yes, we were involved in wars. Yes, we were feared. But let me tell you what else is true. She activated a display showing the complete archives, not just the parts Vextar had shared. Ancient humans were not conquerors. We were explorers. We settled on thousands of worlds, but we never enslaved other species. We traded. We shared technology. We helped younger civilizations develop. What about the destroyed civilizations? Senator Kyleth demanded. What about the warnings? 3 civilizations were destroyed by ancient humans, Ji-Wan agreed. Do you know why? Because those 3 civilizations tried to commit genocide against humans. They saw us as competition. They tried to wipe us out completely. They failed. In defending ourselves, we destroyed them. She showed more evidence. The warnings left behind were not written by humans. They were written by species who attacked us and lost. They tried to warn others not to make the same mistake. But over millions of years, the context was lost. All that remained was the warning. And the war that nearly destroyed you? Another counselor asked. The one that forced you to hide on Earth? Ji-Wan paused. This was the hardest part to explain. There was a war. A civil war among humans. Some of our ancestors believed we should rule the galaxy. Others believed we should guide it. The 2 sides fought for decades. Eventually, both sides nearly destroyed each other. The survivors, those who wanted to guide rather than rule, fled to Earth. They sealed away their technology. They chose to forget rather than risk becoming tyrants. She looked around the chamber. That is what humans did. When we had the power to rule everything, we chose to give it up. We chose to start over. We chose to be better. Captain Yuna entered the chamber at that moment. She had just returned from the Galactic Core with urgent news. High Ambassador, we found them. The ancient human stations. They have been in standby mode for millions of years. When my ship approached, they activated. Fear rippled through the council. Ancient human weapons coming online. What did they do? Ji-Wan asked calmly. They scanned us, Yuna replied. Then they displayed a message. A message in ancient human language. Professor Tajan translated it. It says, Welcome home, children of Earth. We are pleased you survived. We are pleased you chose wisdom over power. We are proud of who you have become. Yuna continued. The stations contain technology beyond anything we have now. Medical advances that could cure any disease. Energy systems that could power whole worlds. Agricultural methods that could end hunger everywhere. The ancient humans left all of this for us, for their descendants. But they also left a choice. She activated a holographic display. The stations will give us this technology, only if we promise to share it with all species in the galaxy. If we try to keep it for ourselves, the stations will shut down forever. Our ancestors wanted us to help everyone or help no one. The council chamber fell silent. This was not what anyone had expected. Ji-Wan looked at the gathered representatives. This is who humans are. This is who we have always been. We are not conquerors.